Legacy. What is that? What does legacy burn for you? As it pertains to the 3 kids, as it pertains to your career, professional career, as well as just in terms of the cultural impact that you've had. The word legacy is so far-reaching. Is there a way for you to make it a little bit more specific as to what it means to you? And you know, when people die, there's not a litany of what they've done that makes a matter. What matters most is how you left somebody to feel.
For me, legacy is all about, you know, these babies. It's about my kids. And for me, on one hand, the most important thing is that when they get older and I'm either gone or I can't communicate with them, that they can turn this stuff on and they'll know that every single thing was for them, and that they saw, like, at least there's a line in a Grateful Dead song that I love, and Jerry Garcia says, anybody who sweats like that must be all right. Ooh. Right? It's like they saw that I was working, like I was throwing down.
When did this love affair happen between all of you guys? Bern, how'd you meet this crew?
You know, they used to, when did we all meet? A year ago? 2 years ago?
June of 2020.
Because they did
COVID
show.
COVID year 1.
We worked with Mike Tyson. We made Hot Box with Mike Tyson for 100 episodes.
Okay.
And then kind of.
Have you ever been on that show?
I never did it. I'm close to Mike, though. I'm really close to Tyson. Yeah.
His family is very, they love power. They love
Yeah. He was a big. So Mike gave a lot of, when my brother was murdered, Mike is the next door neighbor, physical next door neighbor to Kenny. He was murdered in Vegas, trying to get back to Henderson, as you know. Mike lived in Henderson, Nevada. So he was.
And wait, Mike was neighbors with your brother?
Yeah, they were next door neighbors. So Mike did a lot at the funeral. But then I had a nice conversation during BET's, I forget what they called it, but basically I interviewed Nikki Giovanni, like young poet to poet, and then maybe Mayweather interviewed Tyson, that kind of thing. It's really nice. Yeah, it was really dope. So when I saw Mike at that, he left me with some really dope words, and he was saying, man, big bro would be so proud of you. And I haven't seen him since then, but he sent a lot of flowers to the funeral, they were very, very close. So they lived in Henderson, Nevada, and he was followed off the strip. He was at the Mandalay Bay, not Bellagio, but he was marked. I thought I told you about it, Bern.
I don't know about that. Like I don't, and it was one of the things I wanted to ask you about because.
Yeah, wow.
And I was just like, damn.
Yeah, no, we can talk about it a bit, but Mike is in my life via that, which is weird, you know. So, you know, what's weird is the death as a adhesive, right? Or death as an adhesive is interesting.
Absolutely.
My relationship with Janet Jackson, to me, is not necessarily based on having been in the movie with her. It's based on, while being on the movie set, conversing about death, with her having just come out of Mike Jackson dying.
Wow.
And me only a year prior having Kenny been murdered. It's weird what death does to people.
And because the wound is so raw, so open that once that stuff's open, there's a potential for glue there. There's a tension.
I guess.
I don't know if you remember it this way, but I just remember, you know, the movie was Shot Caller, and I think Shot Caller, you know, with Rick Waugh, the director of that movie, whatever it was, he's such a, you know, authenticity is so important to him, and he puts you in touch, and honor, and like and
speaking
and
of
honoring
military,
all voices,
right, and law enforcement honor,
but also for the convicts, also for folks who have like made mistakes in their life.
Oh, his
and
empath is
like,
crazy.
He understands
He's
that
an empath
reality,
for sure.
and one of the things like I think about with that movie, why I'm, you know, when I think of the things I'm most proud of in that film. You know, number one, I would say is my connection to you and the friendship that you know began there.
Same, bro.
But two is, look, you know, we've all done things. You've played cops, you've played soldiers, you've played
criminals.
You know, criminals. You played and done it while you give your full heart the way that I do, whatever that is. But there's something about that film that when I talk to people who have been incarcerated, have gotten out, people who are still in, people who have really know what that path is like.
Yeah.
They really appreciated, I think, the fact that we attacked that film with authenticity, with heart, with humanity, and I think that film really tried to kind of go there.
It did go there.
But I remember that night with you and me when we first, had to do that scene. It was not going well. Like, we were getting yelled at like a coach. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it was one of those things where, Rick, who we both cared about, the director, I mean, I don't know if you remember it that way, but I remember him kind of tearing us up, like yelling at us in front of the entire crew. A dude that I love, he gave me my first shot at a movie. Yeah, I mean, like, I did snitch with him.
Exactly.
I had no business being in that movie, and I kind of told him some stuff about my life, and he put me in it, and here he is, like, attacking me, and like being like, what the are y'all doing in my film? And me and you would say, all right, it's you and me, man. What the are we gonna do? And it was beautiful.
So I feel like 3 important things that you said to me, Bern, that were operative. The yelling you and I grew up getting.
Straight up. Yep.
So if the second thing you said, but you said it prior, you said, I mean, the sport thing was there, and I said, yeah, it was foundational. But if you make it flippant or throw it away, it does become non-foundational. You and I land on it enough, but then we equally throw it away. We talk about sport, but we didn't talk about it that night. Right. We now talk about sport.
But you can see it. I mean,
it was an immediate recognition. The industry and what we do, because we are touted as physical actors. People might say, Bernthal and Omari of the generation are 2 of the higher level method actors. This is what stood out to me. And I'll go off of that method. What stood out to me was I am qualified method, but what gets called edgy when y'all do it is perceived as dangerous when I do it. So,
can you walk me through that?
I'm gonna walk you through.
Thank you, brother.
I am perceived as dangerous, as Mary Vernew would even agree, who loves me and you both, when I am doing something on screen in ways that if you do the same thing, your move is perceived as edgy. Oh my God, that Bernthal, he's such a great actor. Right. He's edgy. Yeah, Omari's great.
What is that? Oh, is it so were you saying with, of course, but so with a white actor that goes there, so if is what you're saying, and so if I go to a place, because I'll tell you right now, there are many days on set.
And it's connected to that night with Rick.
Straight up.
Rick is built like you.
He sees it for, like, he's been down the road.
So I'm going to give you your roses. Or make it not a rose.
It's not.
Make it not a rose.
But I guess my question is, to be specific, if I go somewhere, there are days where I show up on set and I say, I am going to shake this place up. This mother.
No.
And it's
and
like,
I say the same thing.
That's right.
And I say it.
But when I do it, it's, wow, look at his ability. To go to, and you're saying it's different when you do it.
It can almost get me fired.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah. I told Power, I'm going to be in Method season 4, guys. But Bernie, you know me. I told him in the prior room called season 3. Bernie might not give him preemptive cautionary warning. Bernie might go in the room called the season that he's telling you he's going to be doing Method, and he might wait to that season. I said it pre-summer in the prior season. Now next season, Courtney, especially if I'm in jail, I'm gonna be in Method. It could shake up black artists who are at times your bosses even, or producers. It could shake up the conglomerate called the executors who are over even them in terms of the network or streaming platform, or even if it were film, the actual studio that has afforded you getting this job that you're very humbled to be able to bring to life the character within the bigger picture. Back to sports. You and I are never big team, little I. Bernie, we're always big. We're never big I, little team. Right. We're always big team, little I. Yeah. But what makes us very unique is that we understand, but I got to do the shit out of my eye for the team to work.
I owe it to the team. Yeah.
We making an owe it to the team. That's perfectly articulated. Bern, you and I are not better than any actor to ever do it. We just are whoever we are. Yeah. And whatever you are, I smell it a mile away. Yeah. It wasn't a mile away from me that night. Bern, you were right in my face. Right there, huh? You were right there. And to be as secure as a man would have to be this close to me, Denzel will sit in jail in the Malcolm X portrayal or role. And as you know, Denzel being learned up by a couple inmates in character right? Not in reality of being Denzel Washington, but within character. And from him to Ed Harris, one of my favorites, over to Paul Newman, over to Redford, over to Steve McQueen, phenomenal. I don't think Steve McQueen said 2 words. And I smelt everything he was doing. Once you give me someone who is post that era, but who is befitting of that era, where you had to be more than craft. Gene Hackman was in the military, dog, and he's phenomenal. And I asked Denzel one day, Denzel, who scared you the most on set? Who scared you the most? Denzel said, damn, that's a crazy question, though. I said, yeah, who scared you? Because nobody scares you. Who scared you? He said, Gene Hackman.
Damn.
He said, and it wasn't scripted for him to slap me on Crimson Tide. He just slapped me. So, Bern, I guess you scared me.
You've created one of the most iconic characters in the history of television. I really want to talk about what makes that character unique and what you did there, and the credit that you have either gotten or you feel like you haven't gotten for what you've done for an entire network, for culture in general.
Thank you.
But also just athletically, look, yeah, I can, you reach a level of athletics that's unbelievably rare, and I want to know, just take us through sort of football, what football means to you, what you learned from it, how it affects you, and what you do now. And I am really interested just now as somebody who played football, not on the level that you did, not even close, but as now a father of somebody who's in youth football, and I'm just really interested.
Very talented. Hanley and I talked about his talent. You talking about Lil B?
Lil B.
Yeah, his talent is, Hanley talked about how athletic he is. I said to Jay recently, Bern, it's a freaking great question. I'll go this way backwards. I said to Jay recently, I said, but Jay, you got to realize what you were attracted in me is in large part the mentality that I have. That is a football mentality.
What is a football mentality?
So the football mentality, in my opinion, has always had to be big team, little I, first and foremost, more so than the other sports. Partly, Bern, because it's a gladiator sport. So you could throw the worldwide moniker of football, which as you know it to be soccer. You could throw soccer in there. You could throw lacrosse in there, which as you know is a Native American sport and probably one of the oldest sports on the planet. You could throw in a lot of what we've seen in certain sports where there's an amalgamation of which martial arts is included, and I can't remember what they call it, but it's done in Italy, and it's amazing, and they do everything.
Oh, whenever, yeah.
It's rugby meets football, meets lacrosse, meets soccer, obviously, meets martial arts, and I forget the name of it. Netflix ran a great episodic on it. And when I think about it, as it pertains to the American sport, you talked about our culture. So growing up within the American diaspora, yes, I was baseball, soccer, and basketball first. But if the rule in the house, which it was a rule, was you had to be 13 before playing football in the house. The older brother, 2 years older than me, not the one murdered, that was Kenny, but the older brother, 2 years older, Malik. When Malik was 13, I was 11. Where the rule is 13. Ma Dukes, it was my mom that said, Malik, are you cool with Omari playing 2 years before the rule? But I'll be starting when he was starting. So he'd at least feel like we were starting together. That was maybe my crossing fingers of like, he'll at least be like, oh yeah, we're together. And you're going through that, meaning you have a son. What is their age difference? 2 or 3 years?
Not even a year, 1 year.
So it was a real make it or break it moment for us as brothers. And he said, yeah, Ma, Omari is built more stout. He's built like a football player. Yada, yada, he can play. But Bern, what I started to realize over my lifetime was, even if they never allowed me to play, or even if Malik didn't allow me to play that first year, where I got to watch him, but not from afar, called bleachers, I got to be on a field next to his field, or play at 12 on a Saturday, and he played at 2 p.m. on a Saturday. For years, Omari was, even as an actor, trying to get where Bern was at. I would look at Bern, and Bern was making moves, and I'm like, he's so like me when I watch him as an actor. Before I got to you, just watching you from afar. Yet I couldn't get to where you were at that point that I was watching you. So let's say I was on special teams, and Bern could even say, and that dude on special teams is special. I don't know yet, but I know someone out there has that thing that I got. I can't wait to get around them because you're so freaking secure. So instead of pushing colleagues away that were like you go, I want more of that, which is what I love about you. Yeah. But if on special teams, you can make it analogous to me being on the sideline, just waiting, but sometimes getting a shot, a movie here and there, special teams, let it be. Well, as soon as you think about special teams as it pertains to actual football, Bern, they run full speed down into fellow receivers of their full speed throttle, strength, velocity, power, sizable increase over the years, which has made football more dangerous. Running into fellow thems. I ran into Bernie one night on a set, a fellow me. But they're running full speed into them in an explosive way. It almost looks like firefighters going into a burning building. Firefighters must be of insanity. But so much football players be. So, Bern, I'm a double insane human because who pursues acting? Who comes from DMV area outside of Dave Bautista and Bernie and become legendary actors? Who comes from Little Decatur? White Julia Roberts is from Swanee, near Atlanta Airport. I'm from Little Decatur. Who makes it at acting? T.I. all the way to Andre made it at music. Who makes it at personifying characters?
Right.
You're insane to go pursue that. Let's go deeper.
But go ahead.
The mentality, therefore, once I've made it, whatever that is, as an actor, well, now, Bern, I'm double entendre on set. I'm double indemnity. I'm your great character in The Accountant. You were playing crazy levels of complexity, even without on paper it probably being written as such. In The Accountant, with Ben Affleck, what side were you on? Bern, what side are you on? You don't know. Bern laughs. Yeah, right-o. What side was I on?
But you're playing, you play for University of Georgia. You play with some of the best.
Champ Bailey just walked into the Hall of Fame.
Right. That's like, and like.
I think he's the number 2 cover of all time.
I grew up in D.C. Champ Bailey is, you know what I mean?
I would say Deion, the greatest cover guy of all time. Champ is number 2. That's crazy to say. And he's one of my dearest friends. He's as close to me as you and has never lost the same. We are as Velcroed as we once were on a college campus.
But you're up there. These are all, you're up there at the most.
I think my ability was way high, and I think Champ and Ron, his brother, think the same thing. They always see me as a very talented defensive back. I think the guys at Furman University, where I transferred from to go to Georgia, Furman played against Marshall. Marshall had, of course, the second greatest receiver of all time, that being Randy Moss. And then Coach Donnan from Marshall came to Georgia, as you know, to coach after Ray Goff left. So I had ironically Randy Moss's coach come to Georgia.
Could you be doing what you're doing now if you didn't play football?
No.
Why come?
Because the pain of not getting to that level that I really, really wanted to get to as a football player, I've inserted or injected in this acting.
When did that decision come? Like when did you know, okay, I'm going to put it towards acting?
It was immediate. I was probably 4 months away from it, 3 months removed from it, and walked on a 3.5 kilometer AIDS walk in Atlanta with Ma. And I remember turning to her and saying, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to pursue acting.
Wow.
Unapologetically. I'm going to New York. I am very afraid that Pops won't be down with that. Why? Because I think he thinks I still got football left in me. Because I carried that mentality. So, Bern, even if I physically wasn't as gifted as Champ Bailey, which I am nowhere as gifted as him, I'm definitely as gifted as some of the DBs in the league. Champ's another level. That was a gift for him. But Champ is a you and I in the sense that he's aware that his purpose was so much bigger than that.
Okay, so once you make that choice and you say, okay, I'm gonna switch this and this is gonna be my focus.
I went and talked to Pops about 3 weeks later after Ma said, give him a shot. And as soon as I talked to him, he was watching an old Western. And I remember walking up to his room and talking to him, and he said, yeah, when you want to go? It was pretty amazing to me because I did not expect that. And
Why?
I remember my mom saying, give him a shot.
The people I was playing with didn't become the best in the in the World Hall of Fame. You're right there, and you said, hey, I'm going to start this other thing. And I'm starting, as you and I both know, when you start in this thing, you start below the basement. There's most likely it's not going to work out for you.
3 men. Terrell Davis, Travis Stroud, Robert Edwards. Not Champ, not Ron, not Hines. 3 men. Travis Stroud, who played for a little bit. Robert Edwards, who tore his knee in the rookie All-Star game on the sand in Hawaii.
Ugh.
He was up for the SB Player Comeback Story of the Year when Dolphins took him, but he was never the same. Robert Edwards was probably I think he was the second or third pick overall. Somebody should Google that. When did Robert Edwards get drafted? We should Google that. Robert Edwards, Terrell Davis, and Travis Stroud. Burn, when I would do those around the campus, University of Georgia, College Town, Athens, Georgia, as you know, when I would do those readings, the poetry readings on set, or when I started that last year doing theater and introduced first and foremost was August Wilson, the playwright. And I found home like I did with you. When I saw Piano Lesson and I saw Fences, I was gone.
Something happened inside of you. You said, this is what I'm put on this earth
But they
to do.
came to the plays.
Yep.
Or they heard the poetry readings.
Isn't that crazy?
And Burn, when they heard it and watched the plays, those three in particular said, if this football don't work out, and you can fill in the blank. Burn, I probably have never on an interview been able to say those three names. When Travis Stroud, Robert Edwards, and Terrell Davis, who, as y'all know, John Elway doesn't have any rings without Terrell Davis in the backfield. Those three said, if this, you got them. And Burn, maybe, and it might have been innate or subconscious in the sense that while walking on an AIDS walk with Ma,
What did they see you do? Oh,
I would spit poetry and that.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to articulate it.
Yeah.
They would ask me oftentimes.
When you spit poetry, was it the words? Was it the delivery? Was it the whole thing? Was
Maybe
it
the passion. Maybe the passion.
And where was that coming from?
I think that's your point about like maybe a football player is never granted the opportunity. First and foremost, we know this to be the case. If Kaepernick is talking about the fact that the football league versus the other professional leagues come off as a slave system, Bernthal, I can speak to that. And Roger Goodell asked me to come to the Super Bowl about 4 Super Bowls ago when Champ went in.
Yeah.
It seems like pre-COVID, about 4 Christmas ago,
Yeah.
4 Super Bowls ago, sorry. And I did go to the Super Bowl. And Roger asked us to be in the thing. And a lot of times the NFL will want me to be a part because they know I'm connected to the NFL and they know that they need to restructure their branding of the NFL. And they also need mentors in the NFL. So I've taken on individual mentorship from Saquon, to Emmanuel Sanders, to Odell Beckham, who thinks a lot like you and I. He'll say like, oh, I got so much in me. I just got to figure out how to get it all out. I hear you. So Burn, it's probably that last comment, that the latter that would have come from an Odell who thinks like that. How do you get it all out? Saquon, first time I'm around Saquon, supposed to be one of the greatest running backs ever coming out of college, right? You know what Saquon came out of Penn State stating when he became a Giant? When we were around each other, night one, Saquon said, but what's my purpose, oh? Oh, why am I on this earth? I said, damn, this dude is deep. Burn, it doesn't mean that the league doesn't have other Saquons. They don't. He's special. But what it also doesn't mean is that it doesn't mean that even when you go to a league that you're set up for someone to see you as special. There's nothing greater, as you know. Women can say all day, oh my God, Jon Bernthal is so sexy, such a beautiful guy. Burn and Omari are not raised to hear that. Burn and Omari are raised to see these 5 men say, I rock with you.
I f with you.
That's how we're raised.
Yeah.
So football made sense for me because the other sports, it's not as many people called teammates to f with you. So part of my mentality is not only raised with all boys. Shani was the lone sister, like you're raising. Your boys got a lone sister. But also football afforded me the most brothers. That was innate and natural for me. That felt comfortable. And so in reality, man, I think Terrell and Travis and Robert were about, yo, I don't know how to articulate it, but I'm affected by what you're doing, dog.
You saw that it was real.
I'm affected.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't really, they might have been my first audience as an actor.
Wow.
Like whatever that is, oh, do that.
Wow.
I don't know if you can affect as many people running up and down a football field. It did so much for me, bro. So that's something that I realized when I look back. Those guys probably were saying to me, there's a shelf life here, oh, that's short. Don't f with this football. This is all we can do, dog. You can do so much more.
So take me to Brave then.
So I look at Brave and I go, God, he's got the football mentality. And Jay sits at the kitchen cooking and she goes, I know, I'm aware. Don't you think I see that he moves like you? He's freaking built like you. Butt naked, he's a miniature butt naked you. But didn't you take that same mentality and incorporate it in everything you did? Why can't he? By the way, babe, don't you rather him be able to insert it and not be a paraplegic? And Bernie, I go, okay, facts. And scene, cut. check the gate. And I think there's a lot of me's who are as big as Champ Bailey at that which I didn't get to be as big at, and they feel the same way. Now, ironically, Champ's son, who I think is approaching his junior year, if I'm not mistaken, Champ hit me up 3 months ago and said, oh, he's kind of considering not playing anymore. And he got a full boat to a college to play football. Now, if Champ wants me to speak on that, then he knows I'm going to say it's probably not necessarily steeped as much in injury. He would say, it's not, he wasn't injured. But Champ, you're the greatest to ever do what you did at the position. He's also doing what he's doing.
Where's that go?
That's a lot of pressure, bro.
Yeah.
John David might feel that way.
Yeah.
With Denzel being his guy ahead of him called father. So, Champ, come on, bro. You definitely are the Denzel of defensive backs.
Right.
You know, let's make Deion Sanders, as it pertains to a cover corner, if you want to keep it relegated to black culture, being the Sidney Poitier or the Morgan Freeman.
Do you feel
that could be really tough for that guy?
With that, I mean, do you feel pressure in raising these youngsters? You said it before. I mean, these kids aren't growing up the way you grew up.
No, hell no.
Right?
I wanted to give you a kiss on the cheek when I heard as Novin Brave left the backyard. And Lil B's where I was at. I was a middle kid. He's the middle boy. Mm-hmm. Henry said, when they walked off the trampoline, Henry said, thank y'all for coming. Burn. That's it. Mm. You and I never really negotiated with God early on. So we were left to deal with what God gave us, which was career takeoff while we became fathers at the same time.
Same time. Crazy,
and you and I are so built to be papa. Not just dad, but papas. Mm-hmm. We're more papa. Mm-hmm. What the problem with that is, we leave as much as the other dads in the industry. We just don't have a mentality like the other dads.
That's right.
We're sitting on, that's why I also said qualified method.
Just with power and what you did there and what you built, I mean, it's really kind of unprecedented. I mean, similar, I think, to what, you know, Jim Gandolfini did for HBO. There's an entire empire built there, and it's built, you know, on the shoulders of this character, right? And now there's these offshoot shows, and there's, you know, you versus the character, how much O is there, and Ghost, how much Ghost is there. No, and I get that, and I am really
nobody
interested
gets
in
it more than you.
But like, you know, and how you turn that on, how you turn that off, how sometimes, like you said, firefighters, you got to walk towards the flame. You know, sometimes playing a part, man, and you know, it's weird saying it in front of the cameras like this while we're Omari and Jon, because you know, it's something only a few of us really understand. It comes at there's a huge cost, man. We really lose something and leave something on the field, and when we say we're gonna take something on like that, you know, man, you change, and sometimes you don't get it back. How do you feel about where that show landed? Do you feel like you were supported? Do you feel that show got the attention across the board that it deserved? Do you feel that you were financially or just that the business gave you the flowers you deserved for what you did for that? And again, man, I look at kind of what Taylor Sheridan's doing right now with Yellowstone and this.
Yes.
That's what y'all did.
Yes.
That's what y'all have done. And if Ghost doesn't work, if Ghost doesn't have that pain, that glue, that adhesive quality where people say, I f with this character, none of that exists. That's a whole network that honestly doesn't exist without the work that you've done.
If Power is this guest house, I didn't walk in with the stature that you did have preceding your physicality walking in, okay? I absolutely was preceded with conversation and reputation of being pretty freaking talented. I was specifically perhaps connected at least to the predecessor of Ghost, if that is free from Gridiron Gang. Having worked with Dwayne Johnson and Exhibit and the likes of some other, Jay York was the young running back in that. If you include in that Shavu, my turn opposite, and I know you agree with me, Bern, a very gifted, I think one of the more gifted but underrated artisans of our generation as an actor, and that being Wood Harris. Wood being what he was as Avon Barksdale on The Wire, but equally what he was with me on Next Day Air with Mike Epps, Mos Def, and Donald Faison included. I think Lauren London was in that as well. She was. that might have preceded me walking in the door. Oh yeah, he smelled like Ghost in that character, Shabu. Or let 50 tell it. I think he could play this based off of me as Curtis. I'm speaking as Curtis, having watched him in characters that were pubescent stages of a way bigger Ghost. But even if Bernthal didn't have in character in television that, and we talked about this as you approach Punisher. Mm-hmm. We talked about it. Me and you talked about it. Rick Roman Waugh and you talked about it. Maybe as a triumvirate we talked about it. Some of the fears that you had. I said something one day and I remember you going, yeah, but Punisher's not that, You're playing a character that you're able to, with obviously the help of Courtney and her mighty pen and Curtis and his ingenuity and what he's curated in his brain, but perhaps can't put on paper, but she put it on paper. And Stars having said, no, I'm adding this part because I don't think I had told you this, Bern. Stars having said no to a show, so to say yes to Power. They said yes to a show, then said no to the same show they had said yes to. Just to say, nah, I'm wrong. We're going to go with Power. They're betting on a dark horse. Perhaps literally. Let it be white execs, Chris Albrecht included. Now, Chris Albrecht is connected to Jon Bernthal in some capacity. People would ask why. In this interview, people say, why? How? Chris Albrecht is formerly at HBO. Mm-hmm. Jon Bernthal is connected to Gandolfini, rest in peace, via the spinoff, if you will, of Jimmy Gandolfini's lead, Sopranos. Jimmy Gandolfini is never going to be somebody that would say that it's all about him. If anything, I've heard all the stories of him feeding all of the crew, left and right. I've heard of the stories of him battling drug use. I know it. Yep. I know that he missed certain days of work. Yep. I know that equally, Bern, if I missed 5 minutes of work, they were on my... Jimmy Gandolfini, rest in peace, missed 5 days of work at times. I'm aware of it. I read Difficult Men. I know. And I know Difficult Men is more about Mr. Chases of the world. Courtney Kemp's of the world. The curators and creators of these shows that then ask us to be Tom Brady's. Bern, I wasn't necessarily brought in as touted as Tom Brady was, leaving New England, going to Tampa. Jon Bernthal came in. If you got Ghost, you would have come in bigger stature than me walking in. So because I didn't come in bigger stature, that show, if you will, made me. It didn't make me in my definition, but because it made me to other people's belief, they can feel away if they don't feel like they're being given the credit. And ironically, I only give credit where credit is due. I am as good as the weakest actor. This show goes as far as the weakest crew member. And if 50 doesn't hire me, and I've said, 50, you had to be hella secure to hire me. You could have been insecure and hired some guys that are nowhere near my talent. 50 learned that I was aware how gifted I was. Bern, you and I know how gifted we are. We think that everybody else assumes that we think we're gifted. I've learned that some people, because of our humility, think we don't know how gifted we are. Some people feel more in control when you come off like you didn't know you had the Bernthal, I could never play one down. Let's go back to football. I could never even dress up in the locker room if I didn't know how gifted I was. Right. But when we don't come off that way, some people really are taken aback the day that you come off that way. I believe the day that I came off like I knew how gifted I was, everything changed.
What was that?
Not
day?
Always for the better.
How so?
No longer was I in control of the faculty of that which they put me in control of when they asked me to play quarterback. If you ask me to play quarterback, then you have to allow me to sometimes call the plays. Yeah. If you ask me to play quarterback, not producer, just quarterback, I'm not at all of this notion that I was a producer. Right. I tried to get that credit, wasn't allowed it.
Right.
I mean, even that blew the mind of many of me's.
Yeah.
On a show not far over, you had people playing Olivia Pope, who are dear friends of mine, on Scandal, Kerry Washington's, to be specific, blown away that I was never offered an opportunity to direct.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I realized, Bernthal, that our industry includes so many people, if not the majority, you're going to smile, they are insecure.
Oh, yeah.
So they don't really love themselves prior.
Yeah.
I missed that memo.
Yeah.
You might say, brother, how the naivete? Are you an idiot? Oh, I was an idiot. So I did the best that I could in an environment, oftentimes, Bern, that as much as I'm flawed and up and insane and got some weird idiosyncrasies, I might be the most flawed and most odd person on set. Hello, you hired me to play the most odd, complex person.
That's right.
But I'm so secure with it.
But
And many people are not secure with their oddity and
once we
idiosyncrasy.
play in the game, I know how to play this.
Okay, this is what we're going to do. Let's rock.
Yeah.
And that left a bitter taste in my mouth, which I've had to do a lot of work at unbittering and deciding this was par for the course. And I can hear Grandpa, rest in peace, saying, count it all. How do you finish the sentence, Bernie? Joy. I can't go at anybody. I got to say thank you, God.
That's right.
Thank you for their insecurities.
That's right.
It taught me so much. I thought that, in season 2, summer hiatus movie, what was that, oh? That was a movie called Shot Caller. I thought that in season 2 into season 3, once you meet a Jon Bernthal and he's that level of secure, what happens is you put your guard down. Bernie, I learned, and Carmi Zlotnick told me this, formerly number 2 in command at HBO, right? Mm-hmm. Next to Chris Albrecht. The story to HBO. There is nothing like HBO. All these streaming platforms, Netflix included, are all piggybacking HBO. Let's give credit where it's due. Yeah. Home box office was different. It was groundbreaking. I got that team. They then came to stars. But the character himself was one of the greatest things to ever play I could ever play. Right. Now, I didn't get some stuff back. You're right. My soul feels like yours might have when you called me and said, oh, I'm going to play this deaf mute character. Tell me when I'm wrong. Bernie, wasn't the character you played a deaf mute? Mm. Did you go to Ireland to play that character? Hey, world, you know what Bern told me? Aaron's on me, oh. Why? Because I haven't picked up the phone. Do y'all think I forget? A, I don't forget. Bern, I don't forget. Bern told me that. I'll never forget the day he told me. B, I'm always going to hold someone accountable as much as I love Jon Bernthal. Yeah. I said, Bernthal, you can't let home go. I'm in method, oh. I know you're in method. Nobody knows it like me because my bones were born to be in method. Yeah. But Bernie, you got a wife and the kids at home. I got to do the work, oh. Yeah. And this industry, or not the industry, this art has meant so much for me. Yeah. The wife and the kids benefit from what this place of industry / art has afforded
it's the conundrum,
me.
Man.
I know, Bern, but I don't want you to come home and there be an eviction notice, and it won't be because y'all didn't have the right money to pay for the place. She will have evicted you from there. So there's moments where I felt like I was fighting ghosts to get back to Jay and the kids. Mm-hmm. We weren't great always as a couple because that's a lot for you to ask me to do that. So shouldn't I ask for something back because I'm doing that? It's weird, but this industry doesn't really want couples to remain together. That was a memo I also missed early. Mm-hmm. The industry is really big on like, I made you. No, you didn't. Because if you made me, Jay-Z said it best. Heard someone saying it made Hov say, okay, so make another Hov.
That's right. Shot Caller is a movie that did not transcend. It did not.
Oh, it's supposed to be huge.
It did not kind of blow up in the zeitgeist.
And it's some people's favorites. When I get walked on by certain people, they go, my favorite movie you ever done, Shot Caller.
And those people, for the most part, are folks that have either been incarcerated, know people who've been incarcerated, have grown up in those kinds of communities.
Or they're people who like a movie, Bernie, to be real.
You took me to a place. Okay. So what I'm asking you is, as somebody who, I believe you to be a soldier of authenticity, and I believe that is of paramount importance to you. Which is more important, honestly? Your role as Ghost to have the resonance that it does in the community, in culture, or is it to transcend, blow up, cross over into another realm that within that process might actually alienate the very culture that is behind you 100%?
What a great question.
That's a great question. Because
it's so easy to answer.
It is so easy.
But it's never been posed that way, the way you posed it. So and it's so easy to answer.
So easy.
The former.
Of course.
You know that.
Yeah.
For me to be able to, Bern, the fanship is unbelievable. because
But that's that adhesion, right? Like that's that glue. It's like, yeah, man,
Well-
I've been there.
well,
I've been
that-
like it, and whether you know the world or you don't know the world, your work is. I need to dive into this full enough to understand this pain, to understand this humanity, to dive into
I went
this
to jail
world.
season 4. The season that I felt the exec started to like beat me up is the year I went to jail. I'm going to jail for y'all. I went to jail so much that, of course, the world can Google that we then got kicked out of the jail. Because Omari wrongly took a picture with a guy that was my former security guard who came via 50, who I'll always appreciate 50 for so many things, obviously, but also for that specific thing, that he got me that security guard.
Mm-hmm.
And I never forget Mata being incarcerated in real life and me finding my way in the same same 1 year holding jail before you get sentenced to prison that we were shooting in. And of course, then the warden got in trouble because I f***ed around and took a picture with him, which now makes everybody complain because the warden, they now know, got me over to him. But I was only gotten over to him, Bern, because I wasn't in the section of the jail where we were filming in. I was in the section of the jail where I was living in. As a method actor, while the inmates were going, yo, Ghost, what you did, man? What you did, homie? Why you locked up? Oh, you just so silent type. You like your character. Bro, I'm off. That's me running in the flames. So, Bern, this is what I know. The fact that the culture is affected by that role and it resonated to your great word choice of resonance, bro.
The turning it on, the turning it off, the coming back home, being on a set where everything's kind of done for you. You have these sacred seconds between action and cut, and you have to prepare yourself in every way towards that.
Every way
and,
possible.
And nothing is more important to then coming home where what's important to you is no longer paramount. It's about all these other people. What's the hardest thing to make that jump?
John Cheadle told me years ago, he said 3 weeks. I said 3 weeks. Jay was at that dinner. It might have been Annie Clemens who put me in Next Air. It was his birthday. And Don was there with his wife, and they're 30 years in. You know, Bern, they're 30 years in. And I know you and I respect one of the great actors of our time. And Don Cheadle said, never be above 3 weeks. So I said, what? He said, if you want it to work, because drifting happens at 3 weeks. Now, Bern, all of us have failed. None of us have nailed what, I was doing pretty good, but none of us have nailed what Cheetah wanted. And I know he didn't nail it. And that's perhaps why he's doing it. I think people often forget when someone's given a gem or a piece of wisdom, we all have this defense mechanism of thinking, is this person preaching it? No, but they're talking to themselves too.
Yeah.
They're giving you a lesson,
We
but
do that, yeah.
they're talking to
all the time.
themselves.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
really talking to themselves.
Yeah.
We all do. I
It's
don't
like
want,
what you said earlier about that slap, man. Anybody put
Yeah,
their
that-
hands on somebody, it's themselves they're whooping on.
you know, that and everybody who's had that momentary reality of like, I gotta go back home. It's like, what does the 9-to-5er do, Bern? The 9-to-5er stops at the bar. What I will give roses to you and I in stating is we're not trying to stop from the airport to here.
Yeah.
We're trying to get right here.
Right here.
But the problem is, Bern, we didn't really come back the way that a vet comes back and have a moment before hitting civilization called home again. Yeah. We didn't give ourselves that grace or mercy. Yeah. So that's the rose that I'm trying to give in this conversation, in this moment, which is a freaking great question that you posed. In this moment of answering this great question you posed, we have to give ourselves grace and mercy to go, if it took me that much work to get into character, then the efforts at getting out of character to be just...
It's going to take something. It's not
It's
going to
take
get us back as quick as you can.
It's going to take something. So that has definitely been hard. When I'm playing the characters who have to steer the ship, it is harder to come home and ask a woman to ingratiate you in the way that you left her ingratiating you when you said goodbye, when, Bern, we've left her to steer a ship for that long.
Yeah.
If I'm just a part of the ship in character, a little bit more beta than alpha, once I go back home, I kind of can slither into my space a little bit more. But you and I aren't often asked to play those characters. It's why I loved watching you in King Richard, because I could tell you didn't have the weight or responsibility that you usually have. Now, what you inserted in the character was full of complexity because you don't know how to not be complex. But, Bern, you weren't asked to carry that like you're usually asked to carry. Whether it's Ayakoka that you're playing, I mean, bro, the characters that you've played are heavy. So to come home and play Papa and husband, when that's not a character that's being
No,
asked.
you make a good point. That it was actually easier on that. I never thought.
Which one?
When I was doing Rick Macy, it was actually way
lighter.
easier to come in and out.
It's lighter.
Way easier.
You get to come and play in a little bit. You get to be friends with the kid. I mean, the moves you made in that movie were amazing. The ad lib of that wasn't scripted for you to steal the potato chips or the French fries. I know your work. It's unfair for me because I know your style. That's unfair. I'm like, babe, look at his stealing French fries. That's not in the script.
But is there anything specific? Oh, I mean, is there any specific that you really want to do? Is there any
Kill Scott Heron.
Scott Heron?
The revolution will be televised by the time your bro gets to do it.
Wow. Oh, I can see that.
I can't wait. Kill Scott
You
Heron.
know, I grew up with his son, man.
I mean, it's all DC. Ramal.
You know Ramal?
Ramal has
I
talked
grew up
about
with
you and
Ramal,
I being
man.
in the same high school. Ramal has talked about you and him being in the same high school. And I've never said this.
Heavy.
And I never thought that you would ask me that. And I was aware that
Oh,
you
I
and
can
Ramal went to
see
school
that.
together.
Yeah, you with Ramal Rackley?
He gave me the freaking, I got the freaking license from him because the court gave him the rights versus Gia. So Gia comes from that Greenway
Because
Court
isn't
Theater.
there a fight?
The fight is over.
And what was
Gia is actually Gil's son. Gia's named after Gil. Gia
Okay.
Scott Heron.
Okay.
Gia was from the Poetry Lounge, and that ended up resulting in When I Met Jay through the Poetry Competition Nationals. Gia was never on that team.
Okay.
Gia wasn't good enough to make that team, but a great poet, and took to me as a little sis immediately. If Gia has the rights, I still have the rights. Ramal granted me the rights. We had the option for a minute. Ramal pulled back because he didn't like the direction that my cohort was going. My cohort being a guy that wanted to write it and direct it ultimately. But even if he didn't end up directing it, which he was okay with, he wanted to write it. He wasn't down with that choice of that guy writing it. Yet he did come to New York when my colleague flew all the way to from LA, to New York, season 1.5 of Power. We're talking about going into season 2. We had an incredible time. Then he took the rights from us. So we're now trying to figure out the rights. But I think with this team that you and I both know that I'm now with, I think we can go back and get it. My dream
Ramal
job.
has it. Ramal has it.
He's had it for years. He said, Common tried to get it. Mos Def tried to get it. He said, Omari, you saw me, so I gave it to you.
Wow, that's heavy. That you would be so great.
Burn,
He
that's
came
everything
and
for
he
me.
came to our school, man. Like I remember as a kid.
That's
like
everything. I mean, when you think about my music, Burn, it's
Yeah.
all Tupac and Gil.
Gil, and that's all that. Wow.
And it was scared the shit out of me. And I want Denzel to direct it, and I want him to beat my ass. I wanted Regina King to direct it. But Regina or Denzel would be fine. I just need somebody to beat me up. But that's my dream, bro.
I love it.
To play that. And it has become that. You know, Chiwetel Ejiofor first said it great when they said, how did you know that you should have been doing, 12 Years Slave? He said, because it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, that's it.
It scared the shit out of me. He said, I was so scared.
That's it.
So when Chewy says that, and he's the fine thespian he is, for me, bro, he's in our tribe. He's a great actor. I was like, oh, for Chewy to say that, then that's the way we should always think. It's got to scare you.
Got to.
If you could play any character that has already been portrayed and brought to life, is there a thought about a movie that comes to your mind or a character that comes to your mind that you just know you would have bodied?
Yeah, I mean, there's two, man. Max Cady, Cape Fear.
Oh,
And also 48 Hours, man. Nick Nolte and 48 Hours. Those are the two. They both had such a big influence on me, and Nick Nolte.
I
And
mean, you remind me so much of Robert De Niro, as you know.
Nick Nolte for Cape Fear, Scorsese said no to him for that movie. He didn't want him, and then Nick Nolte showed up to the premiere of Goodfellas in that white suit with the glasses on, hair
setting
slicked
the
back
look.
as a look, because they said just don't believe you
They
as a
didn't
lawyer.
think him that.
And he sat down with De Niro and Mr. Scorsese, and that's how he got the part.
Wow.
Yeah.
And my last question,
Yeah.
I got two.
Yeah.
Legacy. What is that? What does legacy burn for you? As it pertains to the 3 kids, as it pertains to your career, professional career, as well as just in terms of the cultural impact that you've had. The word legacy is so far reaching. Is there a way for you to make it a little bit more specific as to what it means to you when you're roasted, an epitaph, and when people die, there's not a litany of what they've done that makes a matter. what matters most is how you left somebody to feel. What is legacy for you, and what is it? And what, when you're roasted, what would you love to be said about you, especially from the people who you respect? What would you love for them to say about the legacy you've left?
For me, legacy is all about, you know, these babies. It's about my kids. And for me, on one hand, the most important thing is that when they get older and I'm either gone or I can't communicate with them, that they can turn this stuff on and they'll know that every single thing was for them, and that they saw, like, at least there's a line in a Grateful Dead song that I love, and it says it's called Cats Under the Stars. They're talking about this band, and Jerry Garcia says anybody who sweats like that must be all right. Right? It's like they saw that I was working, like I was throwing down, so I was
the reason we love Bruce Springsteen, because he still leaves everything on that stage.
Just he was throwing down.
Wow.
So that and hopefully the kids will take that and say, whatever it is that I do, put every little fiber into it. And then honestly, man, you know, I think even, you know, like what we're trying to do here, these conversations. I mean, honestly, like I you know, like,
because people don't talk enough, do they?
I don't
They don't
think so, man.
communicate in that way.
And I think that, like, you know, it's like what you said before. It's the pain. We all have these doubts. We all have these fears. We all love our kids. We all want so much. We all doubt ourselves. And to hear you know, Omari Hardwick, you know, Ghost, talk about your doubts and to talk about your insecurities, to talk about the things that frustrate you, and to get on folks that come from all different walks of life, and to kind of open up and connect and see that, you know, I don't know, I think about men and masculinity a lot, and like how we're raising these
the
boys.
hyper-masculinity
The bull, you know, and we've got politicians and movie stars and athletes who are so full of sometimes, and I think that, like, humility and honesty and admitting that it's okay to be scared. It's okay.
They call these things interviews.
Yeah, interviews.
But this ain't even a conversation. This is, the world got a peek into the brains of Jon Bernthal and Omari Hardwick, but even more so how we walk and talk when walking down the street. We could have, the cameras could have followed us walking down the street.
That's true.
You know what I mean? This might have been a movie.
Yeah. I love you, bro.
Love you too, bro.
All right, brother. Thank you.